Core wounds. These are things that affect many of us, often without our knowledge, and often in ways that we don't even understand or necessarily notice. These are things that influence not just our physical body, but also our behavior and our attitudes towards others. And while they're not necessarily bad or wrong, it's important to be aware of these core wounds and how they impact us and how they might potentially be limiting our experiences in our life. So come with me and let's bring awareness to the last of the core wounds in this series. Hey, before we get started, do me a favor and real quickly go to the like, subscribe, and notification buttons for me just to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hello, fabulous. I hope today is treating you kindly. Today, we are going to be completing our 5-part series on the wonderful Lise Bourbeau book, Heal Your Wounds and Find Your True Self. Today, we will be discussing the 5th and final core wound, which is that of injustice. If you've missed any of the previous videos, I'll be sure to link those in the description box down below so that way you can go back and review. Also know that it is entirely possible to be impacted by multiple core wounds all at the same time. It's not bad, it's not wrong. Each person is individual in their expression of each core wound, and it's just a matter of bringing awareness to these so that we know what to do, so we can figure out how to best support ourselves in working through them. So, the core wound of injustice, as with many of the other core wounds, develops very early on, in this case between the ages of 3 and 5 years old. And it usually starts to occur right around that same period of time when a child is starting to really develop their autonomy and really develop their own independent sense of identity. And in this process of discovering who they are, the natural tendency is to start to express themselves in whatever way that seems most aligned with who they're developing into and who they're choosing to become. Now, when kiddos of this age are not given full opportunity to express themselves, now honestly, we're talking about like appropriate expression here. We're not talking about, acts of aggression or things like that. We're talking about just allowing a child to engage with the world as themselves, authentically, genuinely, just showing up as who they are. And if that for some reason is maybe discouraged or oppressed in some way, whether in actual reality or in perception, then kiddos run the risk of developing the core wound of injustice. So, children who develop these core wounds usually have parents that also struggle with this core wound. As you'll probably notice in reviewing some of these videos in the series, that many of our parents exhibit the exact same core wounds that we have. That's one of those things that tends to be a repeated pattern within families. I'll also link the generational trauma video for you guys as well, just as an extra little bit of support in case that's something that you're kind of dealing with. So again, parents who have the core wound of injustice often will raise children who develop the core wound of injustice. And usually the relationships between the parents and the children are described as amicable, but they're not deep. Like everything feels a little bit arm's length and very superficial. Not that that's necessarily bad or wrong, but again, that's kind of the nature of those types of relationships. And I will say that the core wound of injustice in particular really often co-occurs or happens simultaneously with the core wounds of rejection, sometimes also abandonment, but usually rejection is the key core wound that develops first. And then later on down the road that you start to potentially develop the core wound of injustice to accompany it. The mask that people use to, again, protect themselves from experiencing more injustice, experiencing more oppression, or basically self-abandonment when they're not allowed to express who they authentically are within their being, they create the mask of rigidity. So in other words, they become literally rigid physically within their physical body. Their muscles are super tight. Their posture can be super erect. They can just move in a very almost mechanical or robot kind of fashion. Sometimes their speech can be really stiff. Their manners can be really formal, and they're just not inviting necessarily to folks. They can be considered maybe unfeeling or cold, and maybe a little bit calculating and constantly looking for flaws. Again, remembering that this core wound is often repeated for generations. They're looking for things that are wrong, and they get really, really sensitive about those kinds of things that really will push the buttons of someone who has the core wound of injustice. So, again, if an individual physically is expressing this core wound, they're going to feel very proportional within their body. So unlike with the core wound of humiliation, for example, where maybe one portion of the body is a bit more round or rotund, the core wound of rigidity, even if a person gains weight, it's going to be very symmetrical or evenly distributed throughout the body. So you don't necessarily even notice if that's something that is happening for them. But apparently, for those who experience this core wound, gaining weight is a really big deal. This is something that these folks are very, very concerned about. And again, perfectionism goes hand in hand with this core wound of, sorry, my core wound, I almost said rejection again, but it's not. It's injustice. Apologies. Anyway, so the core wound of injustice will often be accompanied by perfectionism simply because, if you're not allowed true expression of yourself, you have to perform in a certain kind of way in order to gain love and acceptance. Then naturally, anything that falls outside of that realm is going to be very uncomfortable, and it's going to want to be something that this type of individual is going to want to correct in order to feel safe and loved and secure and whole, right? Because that's what they know, that's what they've been taught. So, again, performance is viewed as basically a sign of value. So, I'm valued if I perform, and I have to perform flawlessly because this is what I've been asked to do my whole entire life. So, again, people with this particular core wound are they're going to be very hyper focused on performance, finding the flaws, correcting the flaws, and especially fighting for a sense of equity, or we'll say inclusion. So, for example, if there are three individuals who are standing outside of a ball field behind a fence trying to watch the game, one of them is really tall, and the fence is, a standard 6 foot solid wood slat fence. And one individual is tall, but can just barely see over the fence if they stand on their tippy toes. And then maybe there is someone a little bit smaller, and maybe there's someone who uses a mobility device like a wheelchair. None of the two smaller people can see what's going on, or the people who are closer to the ground, they can't see what's happening. And then the person who's a little bit taller, but still has to stand on their tippy toes in order to see, they're not as comfortable, right? So equality would give everybody a box. Everyone gets the same box, whether it works for them or not, doesn't matter. So then the person who's kind of tall can now stand on the box and comfortably see over the fence. Whereas the smaller person can stand on the box, but they still can't see. And then the person utilizing the mobility device, like a wheelchair, isn't going to be able to use the box at all. Like, that's completely inappropriate for them. So somebody with this core wound of injustice is going to be like, well, wait a minute. We need to get something that works. We need to create a system that supports all these individuals, right? So then maybe the person who, that would be a sense of equity. Everyone gets what they need. And the person who's tall gets the single box. Maybe the person that's smaller gets a few extra boxes. And the person that uses a mobility device gets their little platform with a nice little ramp so they can get up in it and they can see. But I think the true goal of people who experience this core wound of injustice is inclusion. I think, honestly, that inclusion is the most healing thing for a person with this core wound to experience, because inclusion is, why don't we just take down the fence? Or what if we just create a fence that you can see right through and you don't need to adapt it? What if we could just eliminate the barriers? Because then there's no need to pursue constant perfection. There's no need to pursue fixing or changing or finding fault because it's been removed. So that's what our healing efforts are going to focus on today, this idea of inclusion, this unconditional acceptance, so that there is not just equality or equity, but a sense that everyone belongs. So in order to support us with that experience, I have a beautiful blend of essential oils. I have tea tree or melaleuca oil. I have frankincense, and I have oregano. All of this is blended in my tiny little bottle with some fractionated coconut oil. And the reason for this is fractionated coconut oil is a carrier. It dilutes oils that are considered hot, which oregano very much is. If you put just plain oregano on your skin, it's going to burn. It's going to feel a little bit like someone splashed boiling water on you, and it could potentially, leave some sensitive marks on sensitive skin. So we dilute it with a carrier oil, which I happen to have fractionated coconut oil. So I've mixed this lovely blend all up, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of that on your behalf to just support us in moving through this experience of healing. Now, bear with me because I honestly cannot remember why these specific oils were chosen, but they felt aligned. So we're just going to invite the energy of these essential oils and this amazing experience in order to support us in just creating space for inclusion. So I'd like to invite you to get into a comfortable position. Allow the eyes to close and begin to take a few deep, slow breaths. Let the air flow in and out of your lungs comfortably and gently. Any thoughts that float in, allow those to float right back out, knowing that you can hold space for those at a later time. Right now, you have nowhere else to be and nothing else to do. Allow yourself this time to hold this space for yourself. Take a quick inventory from head to toe. Just notice any areas of any particular tension or discomfort. And as feels aligned, you can send the breath into those areas. You can also place the hands over any areas over the body that need some extra love and attention. If at any point during this experience you begin to feel overwhelmed, you can always bring your attention to the center of the forehead, that third eye, and just focus on the sensation of the air on your skin. Just notice how the air feels. Notice the environment as you just focus on that one place in the center of the forehead. I'd like to invite you now to explore what the idea of inclusion might look like. If this isn't something that you've ever considered, or perhaps something that you have not explored in detail, think for a moment about what that might be like. Think about how it might feel to belong. What images do you see in your mind? What sensations do you experience in your body? How does that look, feel, taste, smell? How does it sound? What does the idea of unconditional acceptance and inclusion and belonging awaken within your being? It's okay if it feels a little uncomfortable. Maybe this is something you've never experienced before. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to try something new. Maybe it's okay to hold space to allow yourself to just be. What if you get to be accepted for being exactly who you are right now in this moment? What if, flaws and all, you still belong? You're still included. You are still worthy of being loved and honored and supported. What would it look like for your value as an individual to just be what it is, to be inherent, to exist simply because you exist, rather than being tied to your performance? Yes, what you do for others and for yourself is very important, but it does not define you. You are so much more than how you perform. I'm so sorry if anyone ever led you to believe otherwise. Your value always is, always was, and always will be inherent. Nothing will ever change that. You belong. You deserve to be included. You deserve a space in which you can feel wholly and completely accepted. And just notice how that feels. Notice how it feels in your body to be wrapped in a warm, safe embrace of unconditional love, acceptance, belonging, and inclusion. It's okay if it's uncomfortable. It's okay if it awakens emotions within you. It's okay. You're allowed to sit with that little version of yourself, that 3 to 5-year-old child. You can sit and hold that sweet child's hands, and you can tell them you deserve so much more. You deserve to know that you are loved, you belong. You don't have to perform to earn any of that. You are already worthy exactly as you are. I'm so proud of you. You are so valuable. You are so important. You are so loved. I'm so grateful for you. And as feels aligned, you can sit with that beautiful little child that is the younger version of yourself. Feel free to hug or embrace that child. Rock gently if that speaks to you. Just allow yourself a few moments to just be with this child version of yourself, allowing the sensation of being unconditionally loved, accepted, and embraced in inclusion and belonging. Just allow that to seep into your soul. Whatever comes up for you, let it come up. This is a safe space to feel whatever you need to feel. It's not bad, it's not wrong. Just let it be. It's okay. Notice how it feels. Allow those emotions space to exist. You're safe. It's okay. And as feels aligned, you can give that child version of yourself one final squeeze, knowing that they were always with you, always loving and supporting you, just as you love and support them. And all versions of you, both past, present, and even future, are all loving and supporting you right now, all coming together, embracing you, and just allowing space for this opportunity for you to explore what it might be like to just belong, to just be included, just because you are right now. You can begin to take a few deep, slow breaths as you gently bring some movement back into the body. Allow yourself to stretch or move as feels aligned. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes and come back into this space and this time. Welcome back. As always, I hope that this was helpful for you. Please do, if you haven't done so already, like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell just so that you can stay up to date on all my latest content. This is for you, so I'd love to hear how these experiences are impacting your life in the comment section below. And also, sharing is caring. I very much appreciate sharing the love, sharing the healing with anyone that you think would benefit from this experience, because you know, we all have things, and it's okay to have things, and it's okay to support ourselves, to be supported, and to share that support with others. So thank you with glitter on it for hanging out with me today, and I hope that you have a sparkly rest of your day.